look nice? Does that look nice? Maybe? What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to tackle a simplified plan for starting a private practice. When I search online for information about starting a private practice, I get so overwhelmed. There is no shortage of information. This is a good thing. This is what we want. We want so much information, but also everyone has a slightly different take. And so do I follow so-and-so's advice, or do I follow this other so-and-so's advice? And which one's the right way to start a private practice? The best way. This is not me bashing any of the other creators, people putting this information out there. I think the more information we can get out there, the better. But I get overwhelmed. And I don't know if that's just telling us more about Marie and her sensitive soul. Maybe. But if you can relate with that experience, or if maybe you would just like a simplified, sustainable plan for how to start a private practice right now, this episode's for you. This is how I would go about doing things if I were starting a private practice for the first time in 2025, or restarting a private practice. This is how I would do it today to make it feel simple and keep my sanity. Okay, so let's dive into the actual simplified plan. If it were me today starting a private practice, here's what my step number one would be. Gather your support team. Because this thing of starting a private practice will be overwhelming, will get complicated at times, and it will test your patience, your emotions, etc. So having a support team from the very beginning is so helpful. Your support team doesn't necessarily have to be all therapists or therapists in private practice, but we want to have a robust network of cheerleaders, supporters. It could be other people also starting their private practice. It could be people who already have, full private practices, so you can glean from them. But it could be like your spouse and your friend who's willing to look over your website for you as you're building it. And yes, your support team absolutely can include one of these coaching programs or whatever it might be out there. But the point of my tip is that it is so valuable to have a support team, because you will call on them when you have some hurdles come up along the way. The hurdles, they will come. It will get overwhelming, and it'll be so nice to have your support team there. The next step that I wish people talked about more, but we're talking about it now, is to figure out how you're going to financially support yourself while you're getting your practice off the ground. It will probably take longer than just a few months to really generate some serious income. There are ways to do it much faster, but then you run the risk of potentially building a practice that you don't super love. So trade-offs. If you can figure out a way to make this sustainable for definitely at least 6 months, if not longer than that, from a financial point of view, then that's going to set you up for success, because then there's less pressure on your practice to turn a profit and more space and opportunity to build a practice that, yes, eventually will turn the profit that you're looking for, but that will be sustainable in the meantime, that you're not scrambling to figure out how to cover your expenses, pay your bills, and all of that. So once you have your support team gathered and you figured out how you're going to sustain things financially for a period before you've actually started turning a profit with your practice, it's time to carve out time in your schedule. When would you start seeing clients if you had clients? Where would they go in your schedule? And carve out that time and hold it sacred. Even if you don't see your first client for 3 months or 6 months, put the time slots in your calendar, and those will be the time slots that you use to start growing, building your practice, even though you don't have any clients that you're seeing yet. You don't need 20 hours a week to start building a practice. Of course, the more time you can carve out in your schedule, the more quickly you can get things off the ground. But the more time you carve out in your schedule, the less time you have to do other things like generating income elsewhere to pay your bills while you're not seeing clients yet. So everything in balance. But even if, let's say, there's half a day a week that you can just hold sacred and dedicate towards your practice, or maybe it's, 3 1-hour time slots throughout the week, hold those sacred and use those times to follow through on the next steps. Okay, the next tip that feels really important when it comes to building a sustainable private practice is that whenever you are sitting down to do anything private practice building related, it's so important to do so from a sense of your core self, or from a DBT point of view, like from wise mind. And part of that is making sure that you aren't hurrying, you aren't hustling, you aren't striving in a way that pulls you out of your sense of like core identity and values, the kind of person that you want to be in the world, in your personal life and in your practice. The best way to have a sustainable private practice is to make sure you build a practice where you are working with folks that you are best equipped to work with, that you find most energizing to work with, most values aligned to work with. And so if that is a practice that you ultimately want as your end goal, it's important that you bring that values alignment with you all the way from the beginning, that you're staying grounded in your sense of self and your values as you build your practice. I made a whole episode about building a values-based career a little while ago. I'll link to that in the description if you're interested in checking that out. At this point, once you have all of these things underway, here's what I would do next. I would start building a marketing strategy. The reason why I start with a marketing strategy first is if you have proof of concept in your marketing strategy, then it flows much more easily to dive into the rest of those logistical steps that when we don't yet have a tested, proven marketing strategy, and we're trying to dive into okay, I need to get a city business license, and I need to get some liability insurance, and I need to set up my website, and I need to get a HIPAA secure email, then it feels like trudging through mud. It feels overwhelming, and we don't even know after we pay for all of these things and set everything up if it's even going to work. We might be in debt potentially from setting up all these things that cost money, when if we start with a marketing strategy, potentially one that costs little or no money, then we can make sure that we have potential clients already getting referred to us before we've ever spent a dime on our practice. So when you're trying to figure out what the best marketing strategy is for your practice, I think rather than asking the question what's the most effective marketing strategy for other therapists, the question should be, what's the most effective marketing strategy for me and my practice? And considering all the facets of who you are, the kind of practice you're wanting to build, and who your ideal clients are. Now, clearly, figuring out a marketing strategy is not just okay, quick, slap together cute little marketing strategy. If you'd like some help with honing in on your marketing strategy, because it is kind of a beast, then I have lots of videos about it. I will link to a playlist all about marketing strategy in the description of this episode. And I also have a training all about building a sustainable marketing strategy that fills your practice called the Client Attraction System. And this is something I've been thinking about for a while, but I think this episode is where I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to drop the price of that training. I'm just looking for more ways to make all of this private practice stuff more accessible. So I think it's time to lower the price. So if you're interested in that, or you were kind of on the fence about that, I'll link to it below and you can check that out as well. It is, I think, a great idea to start marketing yourself before you've started your practice, within reason, and also check within your specific jurisdiction of what kind of marketing can you do when you're not yet accepting clients. But let's say your chosen primary marketing strategy involves networking. Network away. Meet as many people as you can, and maybe you're framing it as coming soon, I'm planning on starting to open my practice, next quarter or in 6 months or whatever your runway is, and start building those connections. Or if your marketing strategy is through building a website and blogging, you can have a website and a blog without having other business structures underway. Of course, again, double check within your jurisdiction and things like that. But as long as you're not saying anywhere that you're accepting clients, you can start speaking to the pain points of your ideal clients on your blog and offering, appropriate supportive resources there, that then once you're accepting clients, you can just add that on to your website and make it available. And you might need to shift your marketing strategy a number of times before you land on one that starts bringing people. And you're going to hit a point, if you use this approach, where you're going to start having people asking wait, are you taking new clients? When did you say you're opening your practice? Those are all clues that then you might be ready to start considering opening your doors. And the last piece that is very important is as you hit hurdles, especially the emotional hurdles, and they will come. They will come and they will come to get you. Turn to your support team. That's why they are there. Or, if you hit logistical snags, like, I don't know, I've been staring at this screen for 2 hours and I don't know what I'm missing, or I don't know what else to fix here. Can I have another set of eyes to look at my website? Or, who else can I contact in my networks? Can you help me find other folks that I can network with, or whatever your marketing strategy is? They can help you through all the different snags of emotional and logistical hurdles. And then you just keep plugging away at this using those time slots that you carved out in your calendar to keep building on your existing marketing strategy. Once you start having referrals coming, that's the time that sort of pulls the trigger on saying like, okay, it is now time to start setting up my practice. And maybe you're setting it up virtually from home part-time, and you can just take on a couple clients on the side of your existing job, or however you want to set it up. I'm just offering a simplified option that feels manageable and sustainable. If you need help knowing what that logistical list of stuff is that you have to go through, like setting up your city business license, liability insurance, all that, I have a free checklist. I will link to that below. It's definitely a list. It definitely takes some time, but it's also like very practical. And of course, if everything's working smoothly, if you want to keep scaling up your practice, then you can. Or if you'd like to just keep things smaller because that's what fits best for you, then you can do that too. Well, I hope this is helpful to you wherever you might be at. If you're thinking about starting a private practice, maybe you've been chipping away at it for a while, but it feels like a slog, that this offered a simplified approach. And remember, if you want any help with marketing or that free checklist, I've linked to all of it below, as well as a whole bunch of videos that I've made about all the different stuff that we talked about. So it's all in the description if you're interested. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform included for free for all users, and a whole suite of AI features to streamline your note-taking process. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I hope this was helpful to you. I'm sending all my well wishes your way. If you already have started your practice or you have a successful practice, if you have any tips for what helped simplify that process for you, feel free to share those in the comments as well so that other people can glean from your experience. Because I'm just me. I'm just one person sharing my experience, but we all can chime in. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.